Zion Williamson is now 25 years old and he's entering year 7 in the NBA. That sounds insane to say. It feels like just a few years ago he was throwing down dunks at Duke, but with a disappointing career so far, is it time to give up on him?
Yeah, probably. He's made 2 All-Star games in his career, which is nice, but he's yet to even play in a playoff game, and he's missed more games than he's been active for. But, you know, let's get into it.
Before we start talking about Zion, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So before we talk about Zion's current situation, let's break down his career thus far, talk about what's led up to this point. I know we've done a couple videos on Zion, but it's important for this video to give you like the recap of what's happened. Zion first gains national notoriety in high school for just the ridiculous dunks he was throwing down. Really, I can't think of another high school player, at least like recently, that's had just a more insane mixtape than Zion. He ends up committing to Duke, proceeds to dominate there as well. He's AP Player of the Year as a freshman, leads Duke to the first seed in the NCAA tournament, but ultimately they were taken down by Michigan State in the Elite Eight. Zion then declares for the draft, and the lottery was seen as the Zion Williamson sweepstakes. He was the most hyped prospect since at least Anthony Davis in 2012. You could really argue going back to LeBron in 2003.
I maintain the argument he's the most hyped NBA prospect since LeBron. He's not the best prospect,
okay,
but he's the most hyped since LeBron.
Fair enough. And to the dismay of Knicks fans, who they were convinced he was headed to New York, the Pelicans would end up winning the draft lottery.
See, I never bought like the Zion to New York thing. My theory was it's gonna be the Bulls, right? Because like rigging it for the Knicks to like get Zion to New York, that's too obvious.
They've
right?
done it before.
Yeah, they have done it before, and like it's too obvious. But you know, Chicago, that's another tentpole franchise, big Midwestern city, not having a whole lot of success around this time. Also had high flying superstar in their past, so I was like, Chicago is the place. Then of course it didn't happen, and he goes to New Orleans. So, you know, whatever.
Yeah, the Pelicans obviously take Zion in the draft. And compared to most teams picking first overall, like really the Pelicans, not that bad of a spot. They had just traded AD, so they had young pieces like Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Hart. And they would trade Drew Holiday shortly after this to get some future draft capital, but a torn meniscus before the season caused Zion to miss his first 44 games of his rookie season. But once he came in, once he finally made that debut against the Spurs, he was looking like the player we all expected.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 22.5 points, 6.3 boards per game in 24 games he played in. Pelicans just missed the playoffs, though, in the bubble. He followed that up with a great season in 2021, averaged 27 points a game, 7 boards, 61 games played, made his first All-Star team this year. But that offseason is where things started to fall apart. He suffered a Jones fracture in his right foot that required surgery. We kept hearing that, like, Zion was, like, close to coming back. First, the Pelicans were hopeful it was going to be, like, early in the season, around the time the season started. Then it got pushed back to December, then all the way back to the All-Star break, and then he just didn't play a game all season. What happened here? And like, it doesn't help that around this time we had the infamous Zion, Zach LaVine, Mountain Dew commercial where, you know, the camera adds 10 pounds. Like, I get it. And the director him over with the angle.
Yeah.
But it's just not a great look, him just sitting on the couch with the Xbox controller with Doritos and Mountain Dew on the table.
And even despite that, controversially, the Pelicans gave him a big 5-year, $197 million deal. And he was healthy to start the 2023 season. Once again, he was back to his dominant force. He made his second All-Star team. But before All-Star weekend, he suffered a hamstring injury versus the 76ers, and he would not return the rest of the season. There was speculation, you know, maybe he could return before the play-in, before the playoffs, because the Pelicans were a play-in team, but then we got that bizarre interview where he said he'd return when he felt like Zion again. Not really sure what that means. I mean, I guess kinda like being 100%, but
I mean, it says something about how like much time this guy missed early in his career, where there's like 2 separate instances where he's expected to come back like maybe like mid-season or whatever, and then ends up missing the entire rest of the season.
Exactly.
So much so that I constantly get mixed up on which one is the, well, when I feel like Zion year.
Then during the offseason, a little bit of off the court stuff, there was the Mariah Mills Zion situation,
Dear
which
God.
just absolutely insane. That all went down, by the way, while Zion was having a baby with another woman.
Just things that happen in the NBA. Right?
Exactly. You know, the NBA reality show, it never stops.
How have we never gotten like a Desperate Housewives, but like NBA version or something like that?
We need that. I mean, we mainly focus on the actual basketball on this channel, but it just wasn't a good look for Zion.
You think?
Yeah. He was ready for the 2024 season though, and despite his numbers dropping a little bit, he played a career high 70 games this season. The Pelicans as a whole had a great season. They won 49 games, their most since 2008, their second most in franchise history. This got them the 7th seed, so they hosted the Lakers in the play-in, and Zion in his first postseason type game, dude was eating. The Pelicans were down 18 at one point in the third, but he basically leads a comeback by himself. But after a drive on Anthony Davis that tied the game at 95 late in the fourth, Zion comes back limping and he missed the rest of the game.
Yeah, there's another hamstring injury, and you got to feel for him because this was like his first postseason type game. I know the NBA technically counts the play-in as the regular season, which, by the way, is really stupid.
Yeah.
But, you know, this was a playoff environment. He was balling out. It's one of his best games as a pro, honestly. Pelicans end up losing this game. They would beat the Kings to still make the playoffs, but they get swept by the Thunder in round one. That brings us to last season, where the Pelicans made a big move in the offseason. They traded for DeJounte Murray. So, like, a lot of people thought this could be an interesting team out west. You know, they're coming off a playoff berth. You add a guy like DeJounte Murray, and then they just got wrecked by injuries. Brandon Ingram missed 64 games. Herb Jones missed 62. DeJounte Murray missed 51. CJ and Trey Murphy both missed almost 30. And Zion missed 52 games. He had an early hamstring injury that kept him out for 27 games. During this time, he'd also get suspended one game for being late for a team flight. Willie Green mentioned this wasn't an isolated incident either. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
Exactly.
I know NBA players fly a lot more than average guys like you and I, but like, I'd probably fly like 4 or 5 times a year. Never once been late for a plane in my 27 years on this planet. Like, never once. And like, this guy's just doing it like just because, like, dude, you have your other teammates, you have your coaches, like, their time's not more important than yours.
Yeah, while he's also out during all this, which is just crazy.
Unless you're missing team flights to be at like a physical therapy appointment, be on time.
Yeah.
On-time percentage, 100%.
He would return though, and he played pretty good, and notably, he was in the best shape of his career. He was down to a reported 264 pounds, which was the lightest he had been since being drafted. But after suffering a bone contusion in late March, he was shut down for the rest of the season, only appearing in 30 games last year. So that brings us to this upcoming season. Zion is now 25 years old. That just feels weird to say. He's entering year 7 as well.
That seems more insane, honestly.
Yeah, I cannot believe that. He had some lawsuit and allegations that dropped over the offseason. There haven't been any updates on those, but from what I've read, just the initial reports, if that's true, then Jesus Christ, like, things cannot get any worse for him and the Pelicans.
Yeah, also there's this photo from like a party where he looks like Khalil Mack, if like Khalil Mack wasn't like ripped, you know? Like, just like, it doesn't look like he's super locked in, to say the least. So like, all that being said, like, is there any hope for Zion at this point? Like, we all know he's a great player when he plays. Like, he's an all-star level player. Problem is, he just never plays. Like, he's so far through 6 years, he's played in over 60 games twice. And in 4 of those 6 years, he's played under 30 games. Like, compare him to Embiid all you want. Embiid at least had a 6-year prime stretch where he played in 51 games at least every year. And he's had 4 seasons where he played in 63 or more games. So far, it's been more likely than not that Zion misses half the games in a season. So like, I don't know, you giving up on him at 25?
Kinda not, because like, if he somehow can lock in, stay lean, and actually play, he's still like one of the better players in the league. He's still like an all-star type player, but so far, like, we haven't seen that. And like, there's so many times in NBA history, or just NBA players in the past 10, 15 years where it's like, oh, can Ben Simmons, can he finally lock in?
I was literally just about to bring that up.
It never happens. Can Embiid stay healthy in the playoffs? Which, you know, not to hate on Embiid, he plays through these injuries, but still, it never happens. Like, at some point, things just don't happen. We've seen it for year after year, and it just doesn't happen. Weirdly enough, I think if he got traded, he could luck in. I don't necessarily know why that is, but it kind of just feels like something about New Orleans. The dude needs a change of scenery. I think maybe like if he went to a big market where there was more pressure, there was a bigger spotlight on him, there was more people, you know, just booing him if he wasn't playing. I don't know if that'd motivate him. He's already got the money. He's already locked up through 2028. Like maybe he's like, I don't care. I'll just collect the check. But I feel like for the Pelicans, he's basically just damaged goods at this point. But if he were traded for whatever reason, I feel like it could change his career a little bit. I think in some ways he's going to be injured. We know what Zion is, but I think for another team, he could at least play a bit more games, maybe be a guy in the playoffs, and maybe be like a second or third option on a very good team.
So your suggestion is negative reinforcement?
Basically.
Put him in an environment where people are just gonna boo the shit out of him if he's not playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, if he's gonna turn his career around, it's not gonna be in New Orleans. And if I was New Orleans, by the way, I would cut bait like as soon as possible. Like, you're not winning a championship with Zion. You're not even making the playoffs with Zion. So like, what's the point of keeping him around? I know they're probably thinking like, oh, you know, we've invested all this time, all this money into him. That's a sunk cost at this point. Like, you can't look back at that and be like, we need to recoup on that, because you're not gonna get it. It's gone forever. Deal with it. For Zion himself though, like, I don't really subscribe to the idea that like the big market would change him and whatnot, because it's like, what's gonna change him? Like, he doesn't get as much hate as guys in like New York or LA. Sure, that's fine. But for someone in New Orleans, he gets a pretty decent amount of criticism.
Yeah, that's true.
At least like, you know, when stories like this come out, you know, about his weight or whatever and his injuries and whatnot. So like, I don't really buy the idea that a trade would like reinvigorate him. Like, apparently it's done with Luka, right? Because Luka never thought he would be traded, ever. And no one else ever thought he'd be traded. And so the fact that he was, it kind of like lit a fire on him. It's like, okay, I need to do something. The Mavericks traded me away for a reason, because they don't believe in me. If Zion got traded tomorrow, I'm sure some people would be a little bit surprised, but people would be like, yeah, you know, this was probably a long time coming. So is there still going to be that, you know, that same fire, that same spark in Zion to, you know, improve and to get better, especially because like he's still getting paid, he's still making his max money. If he's in a big market, he's probably going to be making even more because of like endorsements and exposure and whatnot. So is that going to motivate him to be better? Like, I don't know. I want to believe in him because when he does play, he's incredible. He doesn't just put up great numbers, but he puts up great highlights as well. And he's like a great player for the league. And honestly, a guy who, if the chips had, you know, fallen differently, maybe could have been the face of the league post LeBron. But given the way his career is gone, I can't say anything other than at this point, I don't believe in him. He hasn't given me any reason to.
Yeah, it's just so sad to see, because like we said, he was a phenom in high school, dominated at Duke, and like you just said, he could have been the next face of the league, but so far his career, it's just been a massive disappointment. So what do you guys think? Are you giving up on Zion, or does he still have time to turn it around? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like, and hey, while you're here, check out some of our other content as well, and don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.